Now, this video series has been covering whether or not you want to join or kind of jump in the SaaS technology sales world. If I haven't said it before, I'm going to say it now, and it pains me to say it. And I have a whole network of SaaS salespeople who are going to just scream and yell and slap the table because they know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's the fact that an SDR is considered the entry-level position. That's it. I said it. It is what it is. It's not fair. It's not right. It isn't accurate, but it's the reality of this world. And I don't blame the world for thinking so. Okay, there's a lot of bad hiring culture. Technology is horrible with their hiring culture. The brotopia thing is kind of real, but like the big thing about SaaS tech sales is that there's this really narrow-minded perspective on the different roles in a sales team. And I hate it. I had to fight it. And it's very rare that you find a leadership team that is going to appreciate and recognize talent and not just fall along the status quo as determined by, let's say, Salesforce back in the day. By the way, I love Salesforce. Great company. So learned a lot. I mean, this is where all this is coming from. I mean, Salesforce effectively incubated the whole concept of what we're talking about today and basically modeled, at least not entirely, they weren't the first, but they certainly popularized the way that now all tech companies are really pushing. I want to say that even IBM had this concept before. Of course, IBM, the godfathers of computing anything, right? Like, so this has existed, but it's largely popularized by Salesforce. And anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. So let's get to SDRs being the entry-level stuff. Here's the crazy thing that I know you're going to hate to hear, but it's what you need to know, and you need to hear this. If you have any experience as a salesperson and you want to break into SaaS sales, you have to shoot for the SDR position. I'm sorry, it's the reality of this world. You have to. I did it. I took a pay cut for it, and my career has gotten a lot better for it. I'm going to share a few examples, and I know it's tough to hear, but I think it's relevant for those who come with experience. The reality is I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. SDRs make anywhere from as little as 45K a year, 45-ish, to as much as like 70 to 90K base. It's rare that an SDR really makes 90K base. I have yet to know anyone who's worked at a team where that was the case, though it's not like, something you talk about a lot, but I mean, that's the scale of an SDR's position. I think most companies would safely look at an SDR between 55, maybe 70K, depending on experience. That would be like a sweet spot. And of course, there's commission on top. So if you're an experienced AE and you're making 100, 150,000 and you want to break into SaaS, that's why I'm making these videos. You watch these videos, you learn how to talk their talk in the interviews. When you talk about how you can speak to understanding their language, then you have a shot. You really don't have a good shot, but you have a shot. And it wasn't until I figured out everything I'm telling you, that I even was able to get past phone screenings, past recruiters, which, by the way, I have plenty of friends who are quality recruiters, but I have very little confidence in recruiters. Half the recruiters these days are glorified salespeople, and another 3/4 of them even are going to have backgrounds where they're completely unrelated to hiring culture and HR understandings. Like I once worked with a recruiter whose background was like a retail store, and she'd only worked there for a few years out of high school. So I had someone who was trying to sell my position to the C-suite when, no offense, but like she just wasn't qualified to be pushing that. And so that was kind of a bad experience for me, but thankfully I was experienced enough to like kind of just leverage her name for the sake of a connection, and I sold myself. But that's why I tell you this stuff, because if you're running into recruiters that either aren't skilled, aren't qualified, or really are just glorified salespeople and just looking for an inventory of talent, like, hey, there's lots of great recruiters out there. And by the way, recruiters have made my career. But if you are prepped with this knowledge in advance, you can at least stay away from pitfalls where if you have a bad recruiter, you can kind of catch on that and then actually do something about it. Be more proactive. Hound your recruiter. ask targeting questions that are actually going to get you an audience with the customer. So I know I'm all over the place. A lot of this is theoretical at this point, but it's important to have this discussion. And if I'm being completely unclear, let me know in what ways in the comments, or talk to your friends about this stuff. Show them this video and ask them to dig deeper on this, because if they're in SaaS tech, they know exactly what I'm talking about. So I forgot where I was actually. So let's say it's SDRs as an entry-level position. So I myself, for example, was in AE. I was basically like a corporate account manager, was a title for like mid-market enterprise sales. It was kind of like teetering between the two. So as an enterprise level rep who was working with absolutely enterprise level companies, selling products that affected all thousands of employees, when I went to interview for AE jobs, all they ever said was, you've never been an SDR. So you don't understand what we do here. You're not qualified, period. You don't have a SaaS background even. That's it. It doesn't matter how much selling experience, doesn't matter what segment you reach, doesn't matter how qualified or knowledgeable you are as a sales rep. If you haven't been an SDR before, you're not just even going to understand the fundamentals of how we sell. And I'm going to teach you that in the next few videos eventually. But that's going to happen. And you can, if you want to have your own objection handling talk track for that, like by all means, go for it. But I fought against that for a year. Had tons of interviews, hundreds of calls, screenings, and tons of interviews. Couldn't break in. I eventually broke in when I shot a little lower, and I went from, I was at like $120,000, $130,000 salary as a sales rep, shot my way down to like a $60,000 SDR job, got picked up right away. It took maybe 2-3 months of interviewing, and I finally got my way in. And by the way, even as the SDR, I was grilled hard. Was probably grilled a little differently, because just as some companies would look at an SDR as an entry-level position, when someone senior like me is coming in, they're going to wonder, why is this guy like a qualified account executive coming in for an SDR position? Like, he's just using us for a leg. He's going to dip within 6 months. Like, homeboy's going to bounce like within the year. We're not hiring someone to just like use us as a stepping stool. That was a hard objection to work with. There's all kinds of stuff around how it's hard to take a step down. Maybe you're in a life position where you can't afford the pay cut. Hey, like, there are different ways to do it. Like, by the way, I only have a minute left or so, but what I would say, if you're in that position, shoot for partners. Instead of trying to go direct to hire with a SaaS company, work with one of their channel partners, work from a distribution standpoint, because at that point, you'll probably get in dealing with end customers all the same. You'll sell direct to end customers. You'll have a suite of products. You'll learn the marketplace and the industry a lot better. And then you might even have a connection or get a plug with your target OEM company, where you spent a year effectively selling SaaS or whatever solutions through the channel. And then you use your connection from the rep from that OEM manufacturer. And so let's use the Zoom example. I'm at a reseller. I'm selling Zoom to my customers, but I'm also, of course, I'm a reseller, so I'm selling a bunch of stuff. But I connect with the Zoom rep. I'm like, yo, like, I've been selling your stuff. I got background in SaaS now. I've been working at this company. Like, I understand how these contracts work. Let's see if I can move into working with you direct as a direct rep. I would love to do that. You got to network, and you got to work your way around your career strategically. It's not always going to be a direct line to exactly where you want to go. Sometimes you got to wiggle your way around. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to cut this video, and I'm going to hit the next one with some more topics. So I'll see you in the next video.